Hello, guys. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Trinity Life podcast. I'm your host, Trinity, and I am really sorry it took me this long to get it out. It's been a whirlwind on my end. Anyways, new prop. Today we're using a microphone. See how this goes. And then for today's drink, so I got this for Christmas for my sister. It's like a light bulb, and you press this button and it lights up. So I forget how you turn it off. Anyways, we'll just let it go. And what I'm going to have in it is poppy soda. I have never tried this before. I was waiting to specifically try it with you guys. That went on my clothes. Ooh, I don't know if it's going to fit in here. Oh, that's not good. But we're going to try it anyways. It does. Yay. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. Hole was small, but we did it. Okay. Now, let's see. Okay. First actual sip. I know it tasted my finger, but the stuff is on there. Let's see how it tastes. I'm going to be honest. It tastes like sugar-free. So, like diet soda. I don't know how I feel about this, actually. Flavor's good, but when that artificial flavor comes into play, it's not. Okay, one more time with the lights. Yeah. Lights go off. Anyways, now to the story. Don't know how much of that I'll be drinking throughout this. But anyways, so today is going to be about my testimony. I've had so many, I won't say versions, but so many different parts to my life. It took me a while to figure out which parts were actually my testimony. And so I think I've narrowed it down pretty well. Things might come up later in later podcast episodes or talks with people, who knows. But as of now, I made a little list so I can keep track of the order things happened, and we're just going to delve or dive, either one, right in. Actually, real quick, want to open up with a prayer before I start this. So, dear Lord, please guide me in what I say today, and please, if there's anything that you want the other person on the side of this device to hear or understand or take away from this, please let it be so. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so I start all the way in Florida. I was born in Florida, Tampa, Florida, and I was already a C-section. Well, so I already had issues, I'd say. Well, I didn't have issues, but I had physical infirmities. Let's put it that way. So I was a C-section, and then after that, I dealt with acid reflux as a baby, and I also dealt with just other miscellaneous health issues, but drastic enough that I had to go to be put under and doctor x-rays, doctor visits, all that stuff. So dealt with all that. And then about when I was 2, I moved. We moved from Florida to North Carolina for a few months because we were needing to get our feet back underneath us. And then my dad got a job in Williamsburg, Virginia, and so glad he did. I love Williamsburg, so I moved there. And that's when I had my first sibling. So I'm the eldest, and then I had my brother, Noah. He's 3 years younger than me. And I liked him as a baby, but then after that, saw easily that we were very much opposites in almost everything. So we had a really rough time getting together as kids, like really rough time. And then after that, we moved into a bigger house, still in Williamsburg. We moved out of like a condo, an apartment, something like that. I forget what the specific words are. And then we moved into an actual house. And I'd say it was about around this time that my mom started talking to me about the spirit realm, and I really, really, really wanted to see it. Like, for me, that just fascinated me that there were things around us that we couldn't see, yet they were there, and they're the possibility that you can interact with them. I mean, it's in the Bible, like people get visitations from angels, um, and some even talk with them. I was like, oh, I want to do that. So I had that longing for the spirit realm at a very young age. I'd say I was around 4 this time, maybe 5. And then it was also around this time too I started dancing. Uh, I was playing dance gymnastics, the typical. And all my friends were doing it. All my friends loved it. I, on the other hand, just I liked it. I loved it. Like, I did like the dancing part. I had stage fright though when I was younger, but I was already starting to see I was the odd one out. I was very introverted, very shy. My stature was also smaller as a kid. Um, so I just was starting to feel left out, and this progressed throughout my childhood. Just whenever I joined something, I'd feel left out. Then about this time too, about a year or so later, I got my next brother, Daniel. He's 6 years younger than me. And, me and him actually got along a little bit better than me and Noah. And so, now I've got 2 brothers, and then, when we moved to Williamsburg, we joined this church. And, I fell in love with it there. Like, that was my home away from home. Um, so little me, I would go with dad. So I'm like between 4, 5, 6, 7, like those years. I would go with dad before church, help him set up because he was one of the leaders, and everyone, well, the majority of the people there knew me, loved me. I loved them. I knew them. That was the only place I could be outgoing, and it was amazing. Like, it was amazing. I loved it. I love the attention too. Um, but then I also loved the leaders. I loved the pastor, his family. It was amazing. But with that, I accidentally, not knowingly, started putting, and specifically the pastor, people, and specifically the pastor, in idolatry. I'm pretty sure is what the word would be, position. Like, I started to idolize, thinking, well, not that he was Jesus, but that he was the guy, pastor, lead the church, and also he was kind of like a father figure to me. I had my dad in my life. I loved my dad. I love my dad. He's still here. I have my dad in my life and had back then as well. But he was just like another father figure to me. And that church was like my family. And then when I was 7 years old, uh, we found out he had fallen really bad. Not an actual fault. He committed adultery uh, continuously, and it was found out. And so that was a long, difficult struggle for this church. And since my parents were leaders, we were not exactly pulled into it, but they were a part of it. So went through that for a while, and then my parents just couldn't keep going. So at this point, we tried to help the pastor and his wife, and it just wasn't happening. And so he left the church. I don't know who called the engagement. I don't really find that matters for the story, but all I know is that he left the church. Somehow they got divorced. Um, and then the leaders were then trying to figure out how is the service going to keep going. And my parents were on one side, while the other people were on the other. Um, well, it's like my parents had other people on their side. It wasn't like side versus side. It was just that there was really a pull to either change the church or keep the church going the way it was. So when all of that, it wasn't even fully said and done. My parents were like, we gotta stop. We gotta leave. We've got kids. We can't keep doing this. So that was really hurtful for me. You're not about to tell a 7-year-old why the pastor really left. So I just felt with this feeling of I fully don't understand what's going on, what's happening. Next thing I know, we're leaving this church and we're going to a new church. This church ended up being great, like really, really great. But that always stuck with me. Like, what happened? And it really hurt. Um, and that stuck with me. Like I said, that is actually still stuck with me to this day. I do not feel the same way about it as I did back then because I know a lot more now. But that is still something that runs through my head and I think about maybe weekly. And so then after that, also my dad started getting more angry. I'm not sure of all the reasons. I've got my own speculations. I've had tons of talks with him, but he just started yelling a lot and getting really angry. And it was it was really hurtful on my end, um, especially whatever was targeted at me. And I started developing fear of men, um, and kind of like a disdain for men. Just I don't really need you in my life. I loved my dad and want my dad, but there was times I just didn't want anything to do with him. We are great now. We're amazing now. But that's a massive part and what I dealt with later in life. Um, and then I had a sister, my sister Grace. We're 8 years apart. So at this point, I got 3 siblings. And then I go on this trip shortly after she's born with my mom, Grace, and my grandma. And at the airport, through a series of events of getting sick at the airport and not probably eating the healthiest there and stuff, I developed this is going to sound ridiculous, but I developed anxiety for 7 years and stomach pains for 8 years. Like right there at that airport. Like as fast as that. It was developed and it lasted that long. So that was really traumatizing. I was about 9 at this point. No, 8, almost 9. And so that was bad because I mean, I would get anxiety over everything. Going to see friends, which was so much fun, I would like my stomach would hurt. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. But so I dealt with all that. And then couldn't find out my mom's pregnant again. And what do we know? We are also moving at the same time. Oh yeah. It's the aftertaste I don't like. But anyway, we're moving. And so we move. And my little brother is, for the first time ever, my mom does a home birth. And he is born 6 days after we move into our new house. Just picture the amount of boxes. It's a funny story I love to tell constantly because it's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, that's my brother Joshua. We are 10 years apart. This is where it starts to get a little tricky. We are 10 years apart. And then I'd say about a year after he was born. Yeah, almost a year after he was born. I am almost 11 at this point, and I get a 10-month depression. We're not really fully sure the cause, but we do believe that the enemy can play a hand in a lot of things. And right before this time, I had heard God spoke to me. He one day told me, like, I was just sitting down and listening to see if I could even hear his voice. And I actually did hear his voice. And so he gave me this word and of what I was going to come in the future. And I started telling everybody, I was like, oh my goodness, you're not going to believe this. And the next thing you know, I don't even know how it started. I'm in a depression that lasted for 10 months. 10 months at 11 years old. I was wanting to end my life. I was wanting to run away. I didn't like my family. I'd always had like a issue sometimes with my family. I felt like they kind of like hurt my ego. I felt like were in the way. That they were always getting my way. I was feeling pushed around by them. And they weren't, but I was just dealing with sibling frustrations and also I was homeschooled my whole life, homeschooled. So I'm constantly with them. So it was a lot, and then things got worse with my dad during that time. So just all of it combined was really hard. And besides Jesus and my mom's prayers pulled me out, I say it was this announcement that pulled me out, and that was that my mom was pregnant again. This time it was with my brother Samuel, and we are 12 years apart. And so at this point, like, so I get pulled out of that, I think, because of the joy of there being a new baby. I love babies so much. Like, I love babies. So, of getting a new sibling pulled me out of that. So at this time when he was born, I've had all my siblings. And about a year after that, I joined a speed team. So like I said, I was in dance gymnastics, but I really had stage fright. and we actually have a skating rink decently nearby, and my parents were like, "We went skating when we were kids. You guys should join as well." And I was just thinking, no. Then I started skating. It's like, okay, this is fun. And then I saw their artistic teams. Like, I'm gonna go do that. And right before I was going to, I felt like I should go to the speed team. I was like, oh, why not? Um, I, I'm gonna be honest. I was led. I didn't feel led because at this point, after everything I'd been through, I wasn't really close with God. I don't know. I was just thinking, he's whatever in my life, you know. He's up there, but I'm not really gonna take advice from you. Really bad opinion. No one ever do that. I have learned the hard way. Take advice from him constantly. So, I joined the speed team, and that ended up being one of the best decisions I could have made. But God made it. I got fit really fast, and like the exercises, like I always feel so happy afterwards. Well, there was a during my first year, it was rough though because I'd never been in a full on sport with that, like with coaches and stuff. And I would say it was also rough because my family joined. Well, my first two brothers, and they were, like I said, we are opposite. So, my Noah, he got picked on a lot, because he's very outgoing, and my brother Daniel, I just felt like was a hindrance. None of them were. It was a lot of kids were dealing with a lot of issues. I now realize that about when someone bullies you, it's because they've been hurt. I didn't understand that at the time though. So I just like all of it just felt crowding in. I was like, I can't believe this is happening to me. But after I got over that first year or two, it was great. Smooth ride. Loved it. Like absolutely loved it. Um and I still to this day love it. Like speed skating is so close to my heart. Inline speed skating, favorite sport ever. I do like dancing, singing at the same time. No, I don't know what you call that. I started doing that recently because I'm in a theater production, and I don't know what it was. I didn't think I'd even like it, but the first time I did it, I loved it. So, but speed skating would come first. Then after that, we started developing infirmities in our house. So I already told you about stuff I dealt with when I was younger. Then actually, my brother Noah, when he was born, dealt with tons of food intolerances, and it got better. And then we're at this point now. No one in my household can have gluten or dairy because of indigestive issues. My brother Daniel can't have food dyes or else he would go crazy, like legit crazy. And my mom can't have corn. She was oh no, I'm sorry. No, she couldn't have corn. I'm sorry. Uh what else was there was another. Oh yeah, and then Daniel also had terrible, I mean terrible seasonal allergies. Like puffy eyes. Unless we put essential oil diffuser in his room every night, the puffiest eyes ever. Like it was ridiculous. Um so we're dealing with all that, and not to mention, I'm still at this point. This hasn't been the 7, 8 years yet. I'm still dealing with stomach pains after eating food. After yeah, it's like I would be under eating because my stomach would hurt so bad. Weird restroom trips and the anxiety, constant anxiety, which led to constant adrenaline. And when I say constant adrenaline, I mean constant. So speed skating, my practices will last 2 hours, and I told you it was a workout. I would be jumping up and down, like literally bouncing and like start sprinting off because we would used to start our practices with a run to warm up the legs and stuff. I would be like just so full of energy, and for like the next 2 hours, like it would wear down, but it just the constant it was a lot. And then so all this is going on, and I would say this is about the year 2020 at this point. So um yeah, it's been 14 years. Yep. 14 years, and I have gone through so much. I have 5 siblings. I have dealt with food intolerances. I am going through anxiety and stomach pains. I am currently on the speed team, still homeschooled. Also, I'll mention at this point in time, we haven't found a church yet, so we moved from Williamsburg um, up to, I don't know, I would say Nova to Northern Virginia. We moved into the Nova area, and we haven't found a church yet. And Jesus was always kind of like in the back of my mind when I was younger. Well, he was a little bit more stronger at that first church, but then after that, with the church hurt and stuff, uh, it was still decently strong when we went to the next church, but then it was just downhill from there. So, 14 years old, going through that. Shortly after I turned 14, I acquired trichotillomania. What is that? That is where you pull out your hair, and apparently that is due to coping mechanisms. And that is why my hair is so short and curly right now. I did not cut it. I had it all the way down to my hips, and I pulled it all out. So, I'm going through that. So all this piled up on top of each other. And then what do you know? Not even 6 months later. Well, maybe just about 6 months, somewhere around there. I don't even think it was 6 months later. I find out my coach. So speed skating has become my life. Like, end goal for me is become an inline speed skater. That's my end goal in life. It's not Jesus, nothing important. It's become the best speed skater. My coach. So the guy who's kind of, yeah, it's like the speed team kind of became my church, and the coach kind of became like pastor. Like, I'm just trying to set metaphorically so you guys could see what's through my mindset. My coach has cancer. I found out my coach has the biggest stage of cancer. I forget what it is, 4 or 5, maybe it's even 3. I don't know. I forget. But all I know is at the time it was the highest stage of cancer. I was like, you gotta be kidding. You can't be serious right now. Like, this is my life. If my coach goes, what am I gonna do? Like, I've got another coach that can come in, but he has been with me and been so patient with me. What am I gonna do? So, I did the only thing I knew I could do. I prayed. And when I tell you I prayed, I mean I prayed. I didn't know what else to do. So I said, Jesus, I'm praying. I'm praying. Like, I didn't even have full confidence in him, but I could not lose my coach. I prayed for him every day. And then I started praying for other people who were praying for. I prayed for so many people. Like, so many people who were praying for my coach. Or people who weren't praying for my coach. And I just felt like I needed to pray for them. I actually made this prayer bracelet. Who knows, I might show it to you guys another time. Where I added a different bead to represent a different person. And yeah, it's really powerful to see where I've come from, which you'll find out later how things are going now. But that was like just really my start to get stronger with God again. And shortly after, it was like, what, a week after I found out? No, it was the day I found out he had cancer. I'm sorry. A new family joined the speed team. And I was like, okay, we got some newbies. And they were younger than me. Oh no, because we just had an issue with younger kids, because we had tons of younger kids back then. And I was like, we're going through this. Like, please, no, I don't want to go through this again. And so I was planning to act like cool girl in the clique, because there was a clique at the time. And that was the clique that was bullying me. But I at least knew enough people in there that's like, okay, I'm going to try to act like this, because I wanted that affirmation and confirmation that I was special. And for me, it's always been my connections to people. That it's not the money, it's not what I have, even though that's nice. It's the connections I had to that people. And I'm still working on that, because I need to know, as long as I have my connection to Jesus, that's the only person I need connection with. But at the time, that was the only connection. So I was trying to act like that, but I couldn't. Like, I could not, because I wanted friends so bad. I was like, yeah, okay, you want to be friends? Sure. So 2 significantly younger girls than me, but their parents were amazing. They were amazing. Became friends with my family. It was going better, because I at least had some friends. My coach was still dealing with cancer. And then what do you know? My coach miraculously got his cancer disappeared. And when I say miraculously, I mean, like, I'm being sarcastic. I was like, we don't know. No, I know. It's Jesus did it. Jesus Christ did it. He had to go in for emergency surgery for something else, so it wasn't with his cancer doctor, but that doctor had to go, I forget what he had to do, but it was something in that area, it was something else, and when he was in there, it was like, he told the cancer doctor later, it's like, there was no cancer there. There was no cancer. And what do you come find out? A few months later, he gets one of those scans, no cancer. And so, that was awesome. Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. So things are going uphill for me. I've got some friends now. I'm kind of getting a little closer to Jesus. I got my coach back, and actually at this time, in speed skating, I'm really strong. I'm definitely not nearly the strongest, but I'm actually starting to win in my competitions. I'm like, oh, and it's not like the ones with just me in it. I'm actually starting to win against other people. So I'm all excited. I'm all pumped. I'm all hyped. I'm like, yes. Even though I'm dealing with all this stuff, I'm at least getting to what I thought in my head was the end goal. So, this is now about the year, what is it at this point? 2022. We have just hit the beginning of 2022, like the first couple of months. I am doing great. At this point, I've earned my first trophy. Um, I'm still dealing with family issues like crazy, still dealing with health issues like crazy. So is my family. We were like those people who just put on a smile out in public. Then when you go back home, it's a mess. Um, so I'm going through all of that and then still dealing with the trauma of the pastor. So it is going good, but only in the worldly sense. In the spiritual sense, I am literally dead. I literally am dead spiritually. Like I said, I'm kind of close with Jesus, but not really because Jesus has always been so in the back of my head. But anyways, I've actually started rocking with that new family. And one of the reasons I started getting really close, well, first they were awesome people, but then on top of that, I had 1 week. So we need back up actually, I'm sorry, to 2021, about November time frame. I said, Lord, I had watched the movie Heaven for Real, where the little boy goes up to heaven. And I've this whole entire time been praying for a supernatural experience since my mom told me way back when. And I was like, Lord, please just let me at least meet somebody if you won't let this happen to me. And what do you know? One of the people in that family, literally not even a week later, that person tells me, yeah, I've had supernatural encounters, and then starts telling me these things I've been wanting to hear. Like, what? You've known? I met someone and for me, my mind just opened. So that's another reason I feel like I'm getting on top. Not of other people, but it's like, I feel like I'm hitting like my peak era. Like I feel like I'm going up there so fast. So at this point, so I trust that family. I talk Jesus with them. I'm thinking I'm a great Christian now, and especially since I know these people. I read my Bible once in a while. I pray. I'm doing good. And then one day, I was with one of those girls. One of the kid girls, not the mom. And then I forget what we were talking about. And then she said something to me that completely, and I mean when I say completely, I mean completely changed my life. Completely. Completely changed where I was going. Completely changed everything, and is one of the reasons or one of the, I'd say one of the main reasons Jesus, but a decently big size portion of why I'm here today, and specifically speaking to you guys. And what she said, I will tell you in the next episode because my time is about out and I could keep going on forever. Thank you all, though, for listening. We'll be back next time. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'll have things posted below. All my hashtags are the Trinity Life and then the number one, or if you want to do ASL, one. And yeah, please join me for next time. I'm trying to get a little bit more active on there. And I just really want this all to be about Jesus. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Remember that I love you, but Jesus is the one who loves you more. And I will keep saying that until that gets engraved in your heads because it's absolutely true. All right, love you guys.